Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you very much indeed, and good evening to everybody. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today. I initially picked the title 2 Steps Forward, 1 Step Back, with the intention of walking you through the Royal Navy's ambitious transformation programme, one that is arguably our largest change programme in a generation. However, on reflection, I thought I'd take a more personal approach, and over the next hour, I invite you to set sail with me as I navigate you through the Royal Navy's transformation programme. It'll come as no surprise to any of you that this voyage will have its ups and downs, some stormy seas and some squalls, but having been in post for the past 2 years, I hope to give you all a first-hand account of the trials and tribulations that I have faced along the way. So that's about all the nautical analogies you're going to get, I'm afraid. So anybody that's not interested from there can switch off. But just so you know, we are trying something new tonight with videos interspersed throughout, so it's not just me banging on. If there is a slight pause, then bear with us. It's just the bandwidth and there's nothing new there. And if it all goes wrong, then the 2 steps forward, 1 step back becomes me delivering the lot. So I'll start by setting the scene. Why did the Royal Navy need to undertake this journey in the first place? In a world where the UK faces threats from resurgent and developing powers, states and non-state actors, and a continuing threat from violent extremism, there is an undeniable requirement to transform at pace. The Royal Navy has arguably for many years set the bar in maintaining operational and technological advantage. However, this was only possible by constantly challenging daily norms, utilising emerging technology and striving to outthink our adversaries. The requirement has not changed, and so we must redouble our efforts in this space. By embracing integration, interchangeability and innovation, today's Royal Navy remains global, modern and ready. But we must do better if we are to continue to be relevant. Many of you in the audience today will be leading change or transformation programs within your own organisations, and I am sure a number of you will be able to echo many of the experiences I'm about to mention. For me, though, it was clear that the requirement for change was absolute. We were suffering from decades of underinvestment, maintaining legacy capabilities and bloated systems, using traditional policy and processes, and misdirected priorities. Change was needed if we were to deliver what you all justly expect from your Navy. However, in an institution as old as the Royal Navy, trying to effect large, meaningful and lasting change is incredibly difficult. Even as we drive the organisation forward 2 steps, we are regularly slowed and pulled backward 1 step by the invisible bungee cord of tradition, organisational sacred cows, or head office caution and censorship. What do I mean by this? Take something as simple as uniform. Regularly described by our sailors as uncomfortable, unsuited to extreme environmental conditions and unflattering. Clearly something we needed to resolve at pace, you would think. Not in the case of the Royal Navy sailor. That goes against our ingrained culture. We have now launched the replacement uniform. It's more comfortable, more appropriate for extreme climates, more protective against fire. Indeed, it's the same material used by Formula One racing drivers, a sign of true intent, investment and value in our people. However, irrespective of the tidal wave of complaints about the old uniform, the new, improved uniform suffers the same level of resistance. The average sailor is unfortunately culturally averse to change, resistant to reform and comfortable to conform, born from their training and a reflection of the organisational environment in which they work. That's not to say they are not hugely valued and actually the best of breed, but the observation is that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, no matter how needed change is, there will always be some naysayers. So one of the lessons we learned early is that we must recognise that, overcome it, and accept it as part of the cost of transformation. Change is hard, and even when recognised, and however, maintaining that charge is almost impossible. Change needs to become the organisational culture, the usual, not the unusual, not only accepted tacitly, but promoted by all and part of our cultural DNA. But why is it more important now than it ever has been? We're at a generational inflection similar to that when we moved from sail to steam. We overcame organisational inertia then, and the digital leap needed now needs similar ambition. We want the Navy to be at the vanguard of the transition from analogue to digital and from digital to quantum computing. The opportunities are infinite, but there is risk. And despite us often talking about risk and defence, and outsiders thinking we're good at it, our cultural tendency outside of conflict is one of reticence, hesitance and stability. We have seemingly developed a culture where we don't take risks, we don't challenge convention, we don't like to fail, so we don't push the envelope. This has to change for us to be modern and ready to deliver in the world, and we have started that journey. So how do we deliver on the promise of transformation in the maritime domain? Maritime transformation requires a vision which is tempered with reality, but informed by the art of the possible and the science of the deliverable. But you need more than just a vision. Organisations are full of people who are either futurologists or individuals who deliver business as usual within a stable system. What the world is short of is people who are able to visualise the future, interpret what it means for them in the present, and then with confidence deliver that change within bureaucracies which tend to be self-reinforcing and highly disposed to not liking change. Certainly in our recent experience, the early stages revealed organisational inertia, where success depended heavily on constant communication to reinforce the message that we really do intend to achieve this, it will be okay, it's safe, and it's exciting to go on this journey together. What we have learned is that change at scale, even inside an organisation as complex as the Royal Navy, is possible and at a pace and scale that should be apparent. It's meaningful, it's happening now, it increasingly looks, feels and is different on the front line. We have a long way to go, but we've embarked on a journey and every day we try and accelerate the pace. To deliver a more thinking organisation, we need to take more risk, reward challenge, accept failure and be confident in the face of external naysayers. So to continue in that theme, in an organisation where maintaining operational advantage over your adversary is essential, it was concerning that we were compounding a cultural reluctance and nervousness around embracing emerging technology. History tells us that the greatest levels of innovation and technological acceleration come in times of war, not peace. This may be the case, however, this must not be used as an excuse to what I would classify as a laissez-faire attitude to technology. We must embrace risk, challenge each other to ensure we push ourselves beyond our comfort zone, and take a non-linear approach to capability procurement. We talk a good game in terms of technology, but we must walk the walk. So in today's world, with technology advancing at an ever-increasing pace, the only way to maintain that operational advantage is to be at the vanguard of R&D across all domains, and more importantly, have a mechanism in place which allows you to accelerate this new technology to the front line. Traditionally, the Royal Navy and Defence have struggled to accelerate the process from conceptualisation to delivery. And in some cases, we have suffered as a result. Thinking differently is the key. The latest 5th generation F-35B fighter jets, which are currently deployed on HMS Queen Elizabeth as part of CSG-21, are examples of where the Royal Navy chose to take a temporary capability gap. By taking one step back, disposing of the Sea Harrier and thus losing a capability, it allowed the Royal Navy to take a generational leap forward rather than the traditional linear progression. So what are the challenges and opportunities of dramatic technological change? The challenges of such change are well known. Many actors are embracing hybrid, below the threshold warfare in a way not seen on the international stage in the modern era. At the same time, there has also been a focus on nullifying the West's late 20th century supremacy in large-scale warfare, stealth, precision, range and high-tech weaponry. But perhaps the single greatest concern has been in our adversary's capacity to embrace risk whilst accepting that they must focus on targeted areas to get the most value in order to achieve outcomes. Think nuclear-powered torpedoes, hypersonic maritime strike weapons, cyber bombs and weaponized drones in all environments. Put simply, their systems are driven by a competitive urge that historically we have failed to emulate outside of wartime. But at the same time, modern technology provides us with some huge opportunities. Technology itself is no longer the problem, no longer the constraining factor. The tech itself can solve just about anything. And whilst we might opine for the old days where the best technology came from defence outwards into the world, the fact that much of the best tech now comes from the civil sector into defence is an opportunity to be seized. We have so much more choice. The cost should be coming down, and by embracing the best of global tech acceleration, we should be able to get it faster to the hands of the warfighter than ever before. Whilst research is undoubtedly needed, we should focus on the development part of R&D to optimise our outcomes more rapidly at greater scale and lower cost. Whilst procuring the latest technology is all well and good, we realised that as the Royal Navy becomes more autonomous and digitally enabled, there was a requirement to revive how we do our business, both at sea and ashore. This required and still does require a huge organisational shift. But achieving the initial 2 steps forward in this space required substantial effort. Once again, the traditions of the service caused immediate inertia, despite the clear requirement to transform how we operate. Our approach was to simplify the vision, restructure the organisation based on our outputs, rather than the traditional stovepiped approach of fighting arms. The organisation we inherited was like an 18th century house, which had been rewired many times by many different people. We would flick a switch and sometimes the correct light would come on, sometimes the light would nervously flicker, and other times we would flick a light switch and the kettle would start to boil or the TV would turn on, but we wouldn't know why. So by starting from first principles, we have simplified our structure, stripped away the old tangled mess of wires and replaced them with a modern wiring system, which now means when we press the switch, the energy is going where we want it and where we need it. So how do we innovate in force design and in the whole operating model, whilst incorporating technology and data-driven integration, transforming agility and adopting new force integration? A new world requires a new approach, and as such we began at the top. What is good and bad about how we operate, command, lead, change and run our business? As a result, we have moved from a legacy model of stovepiped vertical activity, collective responsibility for all outputs. We are no longer about helicopter versus ship versus submarine versus marine. We are now all about outputs. Operational advantage in the North Atlantic, carrier strike, littoral strike and many more, all focused against well understood and ever-changing problem sets. But we have also recognised that critical to success in the modern world, we have to embrace best practice problem-solving techniques such as Scrum. We are now problem-led. We prioritise, we sprint, we deliver. At all levels we are transparent, optimise cross-functional teams to get initiatives done at speed and attempt to reduce friction by crushing systemic impediments to go faster. We are zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, and then we are zooming in. If you are not delivering a product inside 6 to 9 months, not the traditional defence 6 to 9 years, then you will struggle to get traction in the Royal Navy of today. You will simply be too slow to be relevant. We are learning by doing, we are showing not telling, and we are willing to fail fast. All powerful upgrades to how we go about our modern business. There are clearly exceptions to this in some of the long-term and large-scale projects we have, but they too must adapt to deliver faster and better, or we risk pricing ourselves out of the market. So how do we take the concept of a balanced fleet and make it work? Well, a balanced fleet is not a new idea. Nelson had only 8 ships of HMS Victory stature and many more frigates and sloops. So the obvious conversation around a balanced fleet being sensible and affordable whilst providing enhanced global persistent engagement has its roots in history. The mix of high-end Type 26, mid-range Type 31 and lower-end but still highly capable Batch 2 offshore patrol vessels should be welcomed. And in the modern world with today's technology, small does not mean irrelevant or incapable. But it's about more than the platforms. As we drive towards a pan-Navy naval strike network, which incorporates a mix of lethal uncrewed vessels of increasingly larger size, we actually want a force mix that takes in the high-end force as well as the lower end, working towards a fully autonomous major warship in the next decade. But further, new technology allows us to become even more radical with a modular Navy pod approach. We have always sought modularity as the nirvana of capability flexibility, but have never been able to afford it. So rather than design modularity in, we have chosen to design it out. These pods will be bespoke containers housing new ways of delivery in mine hunting, survey, air systems, communications, lethality, medical and more. This means that all platforms have the ability to become upgradable with the arrival of a new pod. So viewed through my lens, this is a time for strategic opportunity, not just for the Royal Navy, but for all stakeholders involved in researching, designing and producing maritime capability. Modernising our armed forces, securing the UK's position at the leading edge of military capability development is one pillar of the government's ambition to safeguard Britain's interests and values by strengthening our global influence. The government's intent has been clear with our ambitious programme of shipbuilding, which sees concurrent naval shipbuilding programmes in the 20s, including Type 26 frigates and replacement fleet solid support ships, new multi-role ocean surveillance ships to protect our critical undersea cables, Type 31 frigates and a new class of Type 32 frigates to extend our forward presence around the world, multi-role support ships to enable our powerful global strike and amphibious capability with the Future Commando Force, and new manned countermeasure systems and support ships. The Royal Navy's future shipbuilding programmes will also make best use of emerging green maritime technology, including but not limited to power and propulsion, hydrodynamics and energy management, adopting a fast follower approach to proven industrial technological advancements, supporting the RN contribution to the MOD's net zero requirement. This again has massive inertia. Shipbuilding is a traditional activity where a frigate follows a frigate and a destroyer follows a destroyer. But the following video highlights some of the progress we've already made in this space, as well as some of the achievements we'll see in the near future in MOD's net zero and the RN's contribution. So this transformation agenda touches every part of the naval service, every sailor, right the way through to our industrial partners and shipbuilding. Such an ambitious shipbuilding pipeline is exciting and brings with it the opportunity to completely modernise our current fleet so that they remain relevant on the global stage and achieve a better support structure and are more applicable for the 21st century. However, to deliver on this ambition, we realised that our current UK shipbuilding model would not achieve success. Only through a continuous and credible shipbuilding pipeline will the sector and supply chain have the certainty it needs to reform. There has been a historic pattern of boom and bust cycles of Royal Navy demand with correlating fluctuations in government spend. This has resulted in overall increases in the cost of programmes as industry are forced to reprogram their resources in an inefficient manner and cannot exploit the economies of scale that can be achieved with programmes underpinned by assured budgets for their duration. The intent is to design a more sustainable demand signal to smooth the requirement and provide that certainty to industry. A more predictable industrial demand signal reaching across shipbuild, support and supply chain markets will increase confidence in the UK maritime sector, encouraging technological innovation and setting the conditions for securing additional work alongside that from the defence sector as well as through export opportunities. By creating a secure and stable shipbuilding enterprise with a long-term healthy order book, we will help industry to make long-term investments in its workforce and create homegrown highly skilled jobs. The sustainable shipbuilding pipeline approach also sets a credible timeline to allow UK industry to train workers to meet the new demand signal whilst encouraging modern apprenticeships and the expansion of technician and graduate recruitment, thus increasing the productivity of the industry. International partner participation will help the UK shipbuilding industry effectively grow this capacity and help to alleviate any pinch points in the workforce as the UK shipbuilding industry steps up to meet the government's demand signal. The involvement of international partners also provides other defence benefits in the form of strengthening alliances with relevant countries. This approach initially uses competition to drive the market to respond in an innovative way to the Royal Navy demand signal, but preserving choice so that Defence can take a phased approach to drive the changes required to create a world-leading UK shipbuilding industry. So far I've talked all about Royal Navy transformation, but we don't control all the levers when we don't have all the resource. We certainly don't have all the skills, and we work in a world of accelerating complexity and demand. So we have started to work together collegiately with industry and academia by taking an enterprise approach to our maritime enterprises in Scotland and the Solent. These maritime enterprises will link diverse centres of excellence for maritime research, innovation, energy, manufacturing, education, skills and training across the Solent and Scotland to grow a sustainable, thriving and world-leading maritime sector vital to the UK's prosperity and the UK's role in the world. This short video, based upon the maritime enterprise in the Solent, highlights how we've started on this journey to turn the vision into reality. But to brass tacks, for me, the only way the Navy will truly achieve such an ambitious transformation programme is to grasp the golden thread which has been at the core of my speech this evening, and that is to embrace the benefits created by diversity of thought. We must be willing to think and aim to create a different, thoughtful organisation. The definition of the word is important because it is the essence of today. We want an organisation that is both thinking and considerate. Thinking because we must be able to challenge our adversaries, and considerate because it is the right thing to do and improves our ability to encourage thinking. Today's challenges mean that diversity of thought has never been more important. Difference makes better teams and creates better outcomes. Neurotypical is often linear in thought, and those of us who are not neurotypical offer a different perspective. We are key to maximising impact and unlocking some of these outcomes, and we should be clear that without people who see a problem differently, we are in danger of becoming an organisation that is complacent with its comfortableness. I am absolutely clear that diversity of thought forms part of our future. I have already mentioned the requirement to transform and challenge the status quo. It's vital if we are to be competitive and to challenge our adversaries successfully, from the strategic to the very tactical. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I now fully understand the value of diversity across an organisation. But transformation is hard. It's hard for any organisation, and as you heard throughout my speech today, the Royal Navy is no exception to this. We've embarked on this passage and we've designed the ship, plotted a route and the waypoints to keep us on track. yet there is no final destination. We must continue driving forward, fine-tuning the engines and trimming the ballast to maximise efficiency. We need to create a ship's company that is innovative, thinking, thoughtful, ambitious, and not satisfied with being comfortable or recognised for maintaining the status quo. We must create a culture that is progressive, incentivises running, not crawling, that accepts you might fall over, but when you do, you fall forward, you get back up quickly, you maintain momentum, and you sprint again. You take risks, you're willing to try, you progress, you contribute, you add value. Individual steps forward enable organisational leaps forward, and it is the responsibility of all of us as senior leaders, irrespective of our organisation, to demonstrate the trust, will, and leadership for that culture to survive. So as an organisation, I'm confident that we can replace 2 steps forward, 1 step back with 3 steps forward. So what does all this mean? For the Royal Navy, integration means multi-domain integration. Our commando force is a new multi-domain operational capability spanning land, littoral, maritime, space and air domains, plus other government departments' activity, including several agencies. Interchangeability is so much more than interoperability. It means the seamless transfer of assets between our allies to achieve maximum operational effect. US F-35 jets on HMS Queen Elizabeth for CSG-21 is a timely example, but we can and should do more. Innovation means continuously challenging our today in order to remain ahead of tomorrow. We must continue to push the boundaries, be humble enough to get it wrong, embrace technology and innovate across every area of the Royal Navy, business and operations, in order to fight and win. From the seabed to space, from the Arctic to the Antarctic, a global Navy for a global Britain. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Well, there you go. That's an 80-20 delivery of our ability to transform, and that's probably good enough. So on that point, I'll stop, and I'm more than happy to take questions, or if that's not generated anything at all, I'm equally happy to let everybody go and have supper.